Today on the channel, we're making our return to Zwift racing, but not any old setup for Zwift racing. Before today's race, I wanted to do a bit of an experiment. I had already completed 2.5 hours of endurance training, amounting to almost 2,000 kilojoules of work. And the game was simple. Just how much performance had I lost from all of that endurance work before the race? And could I still pull together a result I'm proud of? Now, this might sound a bit insane, but there is a really good rationale for why I'm doing this. As you may know if you've watched the channel a lot, I do a lot of gravel and off-road races where they often last between 3 and 4 hours. One of the big things with those events is your fatigue resistance, and can you still keep kicking on the climbs deep into the race? So the plan is really simple. I want to be really testing myself. Can I do these deep, hard efforts after a lot of fatigue in the legs? Well, you definitely cannot say I have not done a proper warm-up. That is 2 hours 20 done, and I've still got another 5 minutes before the race starts. I'm going to stay in this world doing my zone 2 for pretty much about 30 seconds to go, as I don't want any recovery before the race. So what's the course we're racing on? It's one Zwift calls Ocean Cliffside Loop. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said I thought I could win this. It's a pretty flat course with only one punchy climb halfway through. And of course, I've got quite a lot of volume in my legs today. And this is actually well deep into a heavy training block at the minute, doing 18-hour weeks for the past few. I'm really trying to lift my aerobic base at the minute. And now, just before we start, to get this out of the way, I do not expect to be absolutely smashing it and winning this race. I am going to be tired. And before the race, I set myself one goal, and that was stick with the front group to the finish and have a bit of a play in the sprint. And who knows, maybe I'll pull off the unlikely upset and take a cheeky podium or even a win. Oh yeah, also, this is the first time trying my Zwift cog and virtual shifting properly in a race scenario. To clarify, Zwift did send me that free of charge to give my opinions on it. But yeah, I'm loving it so far. Right, and with 30 seconds to go, that's the perfect time to jump into this race lobby. 30 riders in this one. Big field, eh? Kicking off the race then, you can see how much of a rush I was in, ending my training session and getting into the race, as I hadn't even set the trainer difficulty back in the middle after having it set really low for my grade effort a few weeks ago. And here we go. Let's see how it goes. I'm in way too low of a gear here. Don't want to get dropped off the start line. But it's quite a gentle start, it seems. Of course, in Zwift races, they spice things up a bit with power-ups. And as we roll towards the first banner, I had my sights set on a feather. Yes, let's go. Feels like I've won the lottery there. Now my job, sit in a pack and do absolutely minimal work possible. I am racing in what they call the advanced category, which is a bit annoying these days, because there's nowhere near as many Zwift races to join anymore. But I basically never race on Zwift, so no idea how this is going to go. So far though, it's pretty steady. And yeah, the first bit of this race was really uneventful. We were pretty much rolling around at near zone 2 pace. Well, this has been a very tame start, I have to say. Could have called this the zone 2 ride at this rate. This is also my first Zwift race with a new draft indicator. So, it'll be interesting to see how that is up the climb, especially when them groups start to really string out. I remember last year when I did a Zwift racing video, I massively messed up by steering out of the draft. So hopefully this will help me avoid making that mistake again this time. As we started to move back towards the mainland, we were approaching the first climb of the race. This climb pretty much is a nothing climb, a few percent for a few kilometres, and then it drags a little bit afterwards. I wasn't expecting much here, as I thought most people were going to save the legs for later. So I was just ready to give it a little bit of a dig. I think though, I executed it really well, allowing myself to slide back through the group and ended towards the back, not burning any more matches than I needed to. I imagine most people are saving themselves for the main climb. Rolling down off the climb, again, more of the same, super uneventful, but we were approaching the main one here. And as it loomed up ahead of us, I knew this was going to be painful. Like fresh, I know easily 400 watts is fine, but to be honest with you, do these sort of kilojoules? No idea what I'm going to sustain up this one. It's going to be really interesting to find out. Right, it's looming up ahead there. Just the S-bends, and then there's the drag up the bridge, and then we slowly make our way downhill. Watching them watt kgs as well. As soon as we hit the climb, it really started to kick off, with my watts having to go straight up to 400. Fortunately, I'd hit the climb in the front, so I had a little bit of sliding room to work with, but there were some riders putting in a real dig. And as you can see around me, a sea of green feathers being popped by all the other riders. But you might notice I was holding on to mine for now. As we round the first hairpin, you can see it's really strung out here. And I'm doing everything I can to try and stick with them front riders, but there is a gap opening up. There's around 6 riders off the front, and I knew I had to get across to them. And as you can see on this corner, I had a decision to make. Do I take the gamble, sit with the second group and hope that first group's attack comes to nothing? Or do I risk it, kick across now using my feather and chase down the leaders? And you can see what I did. Of course I took the risk. Of course I kicked across, and you know what? I am glad of it, because I managed to get across to them front riders, and all of a sudden we had a small group with a big gap behind us. As we were crossing the bridge, I had a chance to take a little glance down at the time gap, and straight away we had around a 10-second gap, which was quite significant for such a short race. So I was really hoping we'd stick away and we'd get a bit of messing around behind.
Hope they get some Group 2 syndrome. And it looks like the gap's growing, which is good.
As we did the cliffside road though, it was getting a bit spicy in my group, with a few riders throwing in digs, but nothing really sticking, and only one rider going pop out the back partway along. So as we hit the descent, there were 6 of us left.
Right, we've got a 20-second gap on Group 2. 5k to go. The big descent. Should be doable, right?
Now, descending something I'm still not quite confident on Zwift. I just don't really have my head around when you can freewheel versus when you need to keep on the power. So it's something I really need to learn. If you've got any tips, please let me know, because it is something that I'm going to have to really work on if I do more Zwift racing in future.
As I said, I'm no expert at Zwift descending, but we're off the descent now.
But again, the descent, aside from one small anvil-related attack, was pretty uneventful, and we were onto the flat road, rolling into the finish all together.
But regardless of what happens here, I wanted to hold G1 over the top of the climb, and I made it. Now I've just got to hold concentration for the last sort of 5 minutes or so. I think that's Group 2 gone though, 26 seconds behind. They've got no chance.
I knew there was one final little danger moment left in this race, which was the short kicker coming out of that underwater tunnel with around 1.5 kilometres to go. Of course, as we hit it, everyone kicked off, and there was some really spicy watts going down, and I had to give it all I had to try and stay with them. But again, I think I did something a little bit smart here. As I saw them rolling over the crest, as I saw that group was coming back, there was a sudden lull in the pace, and I knocked my watts off immediately. Whilst other riders around me were still pushing 4 to 5 watts per kilo, I immediately backed off the pace, knowing I had to save every watt I could for the sprint. So as we're rolling into the sprint, ready to go, there's a few riders that have got a little bit of a gap again here, and they've gone really early. And maybe my mistake was not following them straight away, but as we round into around 200 meters to go, I go to kick, and just suddenly I start spinning out at about 600 watts. There's just not enough resistance on the pedals, despite being in gear 24, the max gear for me. So yeah, unfortunately, despite holding that front group, I do end up coming last in the group and finishing the race in 6th place.
Oh, held Group 1 over the climb into the line. And also, I'm happy with this.
Because normally in Zwift races, my power is by far the highest out of everyone. I ride super inefficiently, always off the front, chasing every single move. But today, out of the front group, I have by far the lowest power, actually the only rider averaging under 300 watts. And whilst I'm a light rider, so I can get away with lower watts on the climbs, with all that flat riding today, I was actually really happy with keeping them watts down. And my watts per kilo were pretty much bang slap in the middle of the group as well. So I think with a little bit more work, especially holding them sprints, and actually I think more tactical work in the sprints than just pure numbers, I've got a real chance at getting some wins here. Remembering, this is an advanced grade race, and if we look at some of the racing scores of the riders on that leaderboard, yeah, there's some pretty handy riders in the field. Anyway, after that race, my score is now sitting at 775. And who knows, before real outdoor racing starts, let's see how high I can get it.
Overall then, I am pretty impressed with how it went, and actually, on them short punchy efforts, I felt my legs were pretty good. Now, I did around 438 watts for 2 minutes, or if we take the full 5 minutes of that effort, it was around 366 watts, which, whilst nothing groundbreaking and probably only what I would do in an interval session, was really reassuring that it didn't particularly feel max. Yes, it was hard, but I could have definitely gone quite a bit deeper if I needed to. Considering how much work was in my legs and all the previous day's training, I'm pretty confident with how I'm performing after a deep amount of fatigue. However, I am slightly disappointed by how the sprint went. It is a bit of a shame that I couldn't seem to get the watts up, as soon as I hit 600 watts, I was fully spinning out, despite being in the largest gear I could be on my Zwift cog. Now, I think some of that might be to do with the fact I was in my little ring, which is a 34, so maybe that's not quite big enough, because I think the chain rings on the Zwift rides that they're kind of designed for are quite a bit larger. However, I've always used my small ring on the turbo, so I thought that'd be fine. On Zwift as well, I've got it set to their flat gears, which I think is supposed to be like a 53-39, which should, in theory, easily be enough to kick out way more than 600 watts on the flat. So you'll have to give me some tips down below if you know how I can improve it, or am I just going to have to suck it up and ride in the big ring on the turbo? But excuses aside, I don't think I would have meaningfully got that much more out of my legs, as I think the biggest drop off from that fatigue was that snap. I didn't quite have that kick. Now, I'm no Marcel Kittel myself, I'm not putting out 2,000 watt peak sprints, but I shouldn't have a problem getting up to sort of 800-900 watts when fresh, and I have cracked 1,000 a few times before. So sprinting while tired is definitely something I'm going to have to work on, especially if I want to be competitive at the pointy end of races. But I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope it's quite an interesting project and a bit of a different take on Zwift racing. If you want to see more content from the channel, get yourself subscribed. I'm really trying to keep the channel balanced with some of the performance racing content alongside my bike build stuff during the winter. Also, I might be having some exciting news regarding memberships coming soon, so stay tuned for that one. But until then, I'll see you all in the next one.